Alright everyone, today's video is DM Pro Tips Better Combat. Now you might be saying to yourself, Dungeon Memelord, we've already made a video on better combat. No, we have not. We have made a video on faster combat, which makes a combat better, but this is for more strictly for better combats. So there's three main categories, alright, that you should be looking at to make your combat better. One, your combats are boring. Two, your dungeons are easy and your encounters are easy. And three, your bosses are lame. So I'm going to fix all three of those things in this video. So on the first category is a boring combat, right? And it's really simple to fix it, all right? One, you need 15 things that change in the combat. That's just a general number that I shoot for. I'd like to have a list of 15 things that could change in the combat. I'd like to have that written out before the session. So what this means is, it's several things. It's A, the monster's changing the moves, right? So it shouldn't be the zombie uses his slam attack, and then his slam attack, and then his slam attack. No, he should slam, and then he should grab, and then he should bite, and then he should, have a slamming advantage, something like that. Maybe he should knock prone, all right? So those are all changing his moves, right? And even something as simple as changing the move that a monster makes will make a combat more dynamic and exciting. Right? So more things on that subject of things that change. Okay, you should have more than just the monster changing their move. You should have real things that change. So like maybe they're fighting the zombie and he's getting crazy with it, and then another zombie starts clawing its way out of the ground, and they have to make some checks to not be restrained by the grasping hands. And then the extra zombies are here, and then the ground and the whole area even begins to deal some necrotic damage to them. Right? So those are some changes during the combat that make it more interesting. And the real thing here that's a combat killer is a boring combat, a tedious combat, a repetitive combat. All those are awful because it's boring, it's lame, and the players aren't going to be fun. The players aren't going to have fun. You're not going to have fun. So you really got to avoid repetitiveness, which is why you should have 15 things that change. In addition to this, you should have layer actions for the dungeon. What I mean by this, and this will go a little bit into the next thing, what I mean by this is not strictly layer actions in the sense of an ancient green dragon or an aboleth having huge environmental effects, but maybe if they're fighting goblins in a ruined keep, there's some murder holes. So they shoot an arrow out of one, and then a goblin takes a spear attack out of another and disappears, right? Or they release the hounds, right? Those are some layer actions that you could have, which is pretty similar to 15 things that change, I'm not going to lie, but those are some layer actions that you could have, and just have a list of like 3 layer actions, right, and have them happen on initiative count 20, and so that makes it a more interesting combat as well. Here's a pro tip. Keep the list of the changes, all right? Before combat, you should write down all the layer actions that you can use and all the changes that you're going to introduce and all the variant moves that the monster is going to have, okay? You should compile all of these, and I don't mean to get like a crazy D1000, everything that could happen, but once you've got these mega lists, it's going to make your prep a lot easier, because for each combat, it's going to be as simple as just pulling, okay, I want these things to happen, and maybe making a few, and every time you make some, it adds to the mega list, right? So it's going to be easier and easier every time to make a variable, exciting, changing, non-static combat, and that's going to make your players more excited. It's going to make your combat better at the table, all right? Here's another thing. The minion rule from 4th edition, it gets talked about a lot, but I feel like people are using it wrong. Low-level monsters are fun to throw at a high-level party, but if you just have the low-level monster, it's going to be A, super ineffective, B, it's not going to add to the excitement, it might even kill some of the tension, and it's not going to be effective, right? So what you should do, you should take this minion and you should use it. So like I said before, the layer actions with the murder holes, maybe the players have a chance to target one of those using its reaction, and then use the minion rule of just give the creature an armor class and a hit point, and if it hits, they take it down, right? So that's a way you could use the minion rule and layer actions. And another thing is to this is going to be maybe a little bit restricted in how you can use it, but take these minions and have your bigger monsters throw them or kill them in some sort of cannon fodder way. So I had a rot troll that I had reflavored as a giant rat, like an actually human-sized rat, not the giant rat stat block. But he had some giant rats with him. That was a party of level 5 players, and it was not just a troll, but they were having fun in the combat, and the giant rats would have been 100% ineffective. But I just used them as minions, and I had the troll use some of his legendary actions, which again is something that changes and adds to the combat. I had the troll use some of his legendary actions to throw them. So he made an attack roll at advantage, and if the rat hit, it just dealt him 12 damage. So that's kind of a way to use minions to greater effect in the combat than just, honestly, I feel like a skeleton just taking shots at a party of high-level players, like it's boring and it's not effective. You know, it takes, oh, they lost 10 hit points, like big deal. You know, over 6 rounds of combat, the skeleton landed 2 attacks and he contributed almost nothing. I actually had a combat where the players did not know there were 2 skeletons because they were so high level above them and they were dealing so little damage, right? So that's why you should use your minions effectively, okay? And when I say minions, I'm talking about specifically monsters under the minion rule from 4th edition. Another thing is legendary actions on non-legendary monsters. So I mentioned a second ago, the rat prince my players fought. I gave him legendary actions because it made the combat more fun and exciting. Now they weren't crazy actions like, you know, he breathes fire or something like that, but you know, he threw his giant rats, he dodged an attack, and he made an attack, right? That's his legendary actions. Just makes the fight more dynamic and more exciting. Because again, I'm going to stress this point really hard. A boring combat is a bad combat. Okay, so my combats are too easy, you might say. We're on the second topic. Combats are too easy. So simple. This is probably going to be the easiest category. Go by a rule of thumb of balancing, all right? At least have 1 more monster than you do party members, all right? That's the minimum I would say is 1 more monster than party members. So if you have a party of 3, throw in 4 monsters. If you have a party of 4, throw in 5 monsters. And you're not gonna have to scale that too much. I mean, obviously, if you have like 6, first of all, don't have 6 players. But if you do, add in 8 monsters, right? Just make sure the players are beaten in the action economy. Because you hear people say so often, players beat my monsters in the action economy. Okay, just make more monsters. Give them more actions. If your players are taking too many actions, there's too many players, add more monsters. So that's a rule of thumb in balancing, is have more monsters than players. And I would say every monster should equal or exceed your party's challenge rating. And I know that's going to sound crazy, but my players love it, and I haven't killed them yet. They just have to play smart. Right, I threw a corpse flower, an ooze, and a hill giant at a party of 3 level 5s. I did not pull punches. I hit harder than I could have because I felt like it, and it made the combat more fun. So that's the baseline that I measure from. But numbers wise, at least have 1 more monster than you have party members. Challenge rating wise, have no monsters under half the player's CR. Okay, so if you have a party of 3 level 6s, have no monsters under CR3 unless they are minions that I described above that get used as cannon fodder. Okay. Hit harder. If you're not sure if you're homebrewing monsters 1 or if you're modifying monsters 2, hit harder than you think you need to. Okay, make them tougher than you think you need to, because you can always in the middle of the combat drop that armor class, drop some hit points, drop some attack, drop some damage after you've seen how effective you need to be, right? It's a learning experience, 1, because you see how hard you can hit players. 2, if they don't deserve to die, if they haven't played dumb, then you can pull back and not kill them. But it's going to be weird if you suddenly, out of nowhere, like, all right, these monsters have been ineffective this whole time, and you just go full throttle out of nowhere. Like, that's going to feel weird to your players. But if you drop back a little bit, that's A, fitting, because A, the monster's getting tired, and B, it's not going to feel as bad to your players, because they're never going to complain about an attack missing. But if you go on a hot streak and just drop 3 players, if you go on a hot streak, you know, and drop 3 players, it's going to feel weird to the party. So that's a little bit of making your encounters more harder, as well as giving it dungeon layer actions. I think I mentioned it beforehand, but not even just the specific encounter, but the dungeon itself should have some layer actions. So if they're fighting something like kobolds, then maybe they can move the terrain around a little bit. Maybe they can take shots from extremely fortified positions, and they can herd them through the dungeon, right? They can move walls and that kind of thing. So that's how to make your encounters a little bit more hard, right? If they're too easy for your players. And then the final category is a lame boss, and there's a lot of things that go into a lame boss to make it better. Okay, the first one we've already covered. All right, making more dynamic encounters. If you have a more dynamic boss encounter, it's going to be better. All right, a better dungeon. Okay, if you have a lame dungeon, the boss, it's not going to be as much hype up for the boss. But if the dungeon is killer and fun and all that good stuff, players are going to be expecting a good boss, and it'll be easy to live up to the hype. Okay. Layer actions and legendary actions. Your boss should have powerful layer actions and powerful legendary actions, okay? Every boss that's facing a party of level 3 or above should have both of those things, just period. All right, and I know it's going to seem like a lot of prep. You just take the same stuff. You first off steal monsters, steal everything. Okay, that's going to make your prep so much easier. Ask for help online. All right, ask me too, because if you get on my Discord and message me, I will answer you. But ask around, do a little bit of prep. It's going to get easier every single time. All right, give your boss layer actions and legendary actions. So you've broken down the players and you've built up the boss through this cool dungeon. So the boss is A, on a pedestal, and B, the bar has been lowered. So it's going to be easier for the boss to reach, right? Another thing is to give your boss high saves. So I know there's this thing called legendary resistance. No one likes it. It's basically just saying you can fudge the dice. And it's hard in combat to keep track of all these various things, right? You've got 100 numbers floating around your head. You got initiative, you got hit points, you got all this extra stuff. You got to make your combats easier on yourself. So for your bosses, or for any monster you feel like should deserve a saving throw, there's the core 4, there's the 5th edition of DC, and then there is difficulty class, and then there is finally a 6th part of their saving throw bonus. And I would just make this a static bonus across all saves. So I usually give my bosses +6, right? Depending on the player's level, I usually make it, I think, equal to the player's proficiency bonus, maybe twice that, maybe +1. I just kind of decide a saving throw for them to have, and that's their saving throw for all their saves, right? So that's how to make a better boss. And then one final thing is the boss should never be alone. It should be the boss +3. And when I say +3, when I wrote that, I was thinking about +3 allies, right? But it could be the boss has 3 regional effects, and this is more than simply the regional effect of like, oh, there's thorns around and animals spy for it. No, this is like within 30 feet of the boss, you need to make a saving throw every turn or be affected by enemies abound, right? Or it's something like this boss can have unlimited reactions for counterspell, or some crazy things like that. That counts as one of the +3. Now, maybe give him a retainer too. Maybe give him a boss. He's got a retainer, and he's got 2 regional effects, or he's got the boss, 2 retainers, and a regional effect, right? But I would never have the boss ever alone. Never alone. All right, and here is a pro tip before I leave, because I've given you guys a lot, but here's a pro tip. Reinforcements, all right? This is similar to pocket changes, a rule that I invented. Reinforcements, all right? While combat is happening, if it's a loud combat, you roll a d10. D20, I should say. If the result is a 10 or higher, someone hears, and you roll a d4 to see how many rounds until they arrive, right? It's a real simple rule. All you do is you take one monster from one room to another. Maybe he goes back and he lets them know, right? So it's just kind of changing things up. But that's a pro tip, and it's a video. Good luck, goodbye, and have fun in your games.